Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family. And we want to hear from you. So send us an email today with a question or a comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. Well, today we have a surprise for you, actually. We have Janet Marana, who is with us. Now, Janet is the Executive Director for Priests for Life, and she also is you've seen her before, very familiar face. She co-hosts the show Catholic View for Women. Well, today she's here to talk about a special project, and it's called the See Baby Pregnancy Guide app. And you could go to the website, it's babychris.org.
And I would just like to add that Janet Marana is one of the great pro-life leaders in our nation. And you truly are
really?
one who equips people to do this work. And you helped me so much in that. So it's a privilege to have you. You can't cry because we only got much time. So tell us about this pro-life app, this Baby Chris app, and what is this all about?
Well, it's so exciting, first of all, because everyone's seen 4D ultrasound. This is embryoscopy. This takes a camera inside the mom right to the window of her womb, literally. And so these images are even more enhanced of the unborn child. And this is at the first few weeks of that child's development. So when you think about it, how many women are having that chemical abortion in those weeks and so forth and so on? This is a way of seeing your baby. And what the app does, again, everyone can get their phone while I'm speaking, go to the App Store, and it's a free download, See Baby Pregnancy Guide. And when you download it, it'll have all the weeks following the
every week of gestation.
Every week of gestation. And after you watch that image of the baby, at that point, you scroll down a little further, and it tells you what the baby has done at that point in development. I mean, I was looking at the app, and like at 7 weeks, 8 weeks, already that baby, that heart has beat over 5 million times. I mean, how can you, and in our country, we've had so many heartbeat bills now starting to, and you use this app, people make that connection. But what the exciting thing, Jim, is I know in the pro-life movement, everyone says, can't you guys get your act together? Well, Priests for Life, we spearheaded a meeting at our headquarters, and over 50 leaders were there, and they're signing on. We have at least 30 national groups are signing on to this project.
Fantastic.
And the concept was, leaders all brainstormed, how are we going to get this tool out and get people to connect? And I said, well, the Annunciation. Let's follow the unborn baby Jesus, right?
March 25th?
March 25th, we launched the project with press releases, and like at that point, 30 groups had signed on, and each week more are signing on. And the concept is each week we send out a press release, we highlight to everyone the baby, and of course on Christmas Day, Christ will be born. And this is following the unborn Jesus, But this is a great tool, first of all, if any family having a baby right now, to show the other siblings, oh, look at your little baby brother or sister, look at, follow it. So you're teaching them from the wee little ones about fetal development and embryology. But then people who are like you, I know, have the pregnancy center, Her Choice. Well, imagine if every counselor in a pregnancy center had this on their phone right then and there, whatever. You show that ultrasound, okay, but now you take her in and say, now let's really look at your baby. And let's see, what is that baby doing right now? Oh, fingers and toes, and the nerve system has been developed, and this and that. And then you can also use it out in front of the abortion mills all over the country. People are sidewalk counselors, 40 days for people praying, 40 days for life. Have it on your phone so that if you someone who can even talk to you for just but a moment, have it up and see that baby first, and then you could talk about the development.
Right, because the other side is all saying, it's just a blob of tissue.
Blob of tissue, they're still trying that line.
And
it's
it's
crazy.
like, no, not today.
No, not today.
And you can see, and hopefully it would pierce our hearts that then we would say yes to life.
And I'm thinking even, Jim and Joy, schools, starting in grammar schools, and you could talk about the unborn child. And, I even encourage them to, a school year starts in September and to June, well, that's 9 months, or, something like that, and follow the baby then. And say, baby Jesus, he was an unborn child, lived in Mary for 9 months. Well, let's follow to see what a baby looks like. How did Jesus, he was like us, he took on our humanity,
Janet, thank you so much.
Oh,
Another great effort through Priests for Life and through 29 other organizations.
That's right.
And we really trust that lives are going to be saved and people are going to be healed and the culture of life will be built up. You can go to www.babychris.org. Plenty more to come. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and we went from Janet Marana. Now we have Father Leo Patalinghug. Now he has been on our show before,
he has.
And his face is very familiar to our EWTN
He behaved
family.
himself well enough to come back.
That's right. Thanks a lot.
Just
I appreciate
barely did that.
But he's here today because he authored another book, and this book is called Saving the Family. And you could go to Father Leo's website. It's fatherleofeeds.com. Well, Father Leo, we're just delighted to have you back.
Thanks for having me back in your home.
I think the last time we had you, it was the week of Christmas.
Perhaps.
Because we had a Christmas tree up, and I think you had some red on or something. Yeah, no, you did.
That's cardinal red. I'll always wear black.
I think you had like
I'm
a
always
red
in the-
vest. You were being festive. It was beautiful.
Great.
It was good to have you. So tell our family a little bit about why this book, Saving the Family.
So a lot of people know me as the priest who cooks. I get it, but they don't see the theological import. Humans are the only animals in the animal kingdoms that cook. And the reason is because we're made in God's image and likeness, and therefore God who provides wants to feed his family, and in so doing can literally save the family. Hence the title of the book, Saving the Family. Because let's admit it, just take a look at the news. This world is pretty messed up right now, and it all begins in the home. And so if we can, as the church documents say, work on the domestic church, the original structure of the society, then what we're going to do is we're going to be able to save the world if we save the family.
Yeah. I said to Joy some years back, if families would just sit down for one meal a day in a meaningful way.
That's because you're Italian. That's right. That's because you're Italian.
that the church and the world would be transformed.
It would be.
So what has happened? What's going on? When I was a kid growing up in New Jersey and would come home after school playing on the basketball court, whatever, you would hear doors open up at about 5 o'clock, 5:30. Jimmy boy or Alberta, Umberto, come home. It's time for everybody would be. Your mom's calling you. Somebody get now.
The only reason why I had friends growing up was because my mother cooked so well, and there were some kids in the neighborhoods that their parents weren't always home, and so they felt at home in my family. And there is something powerful and transformative in a meal. I mean, look. Jesus became food for a reason. Yes. And I think what we've got to do is kind of tap back into what it means to be in community, in communion, and that obviously implies food.
Now, Father, your movement, what is it called? I see the term plating grace.
Plating grace.
Yes.
It transitioned from grace before meals to now plating grace. And the reason is because people thought, oh, well, he just wants me to pray before I eat.
It's a development of doctrine.
Get it, exactly. And for, obviously, there was also a level of piety that some people wouldn't want to hear what I have to say or not take me seriously. As the food guy, because I'm also a priest, you know, even though I studied culinary arts. So what I decided to do was make a transition to plating grace. Plating is a technical culinary term. It's presentation. And what I'm doing is I've got to take grace, which a lot of people think is boring, irrelevant, and, you know, forceful. And I've got to plate it in a way that's going to make people want to receive it. And if you look at the name too, I just have Leo Patalinghug, not Father Leo, not because I'm getting rid of my priesthood. I love my priesthood, but this was a way for parents who have children who aren't going to church anymore to say, look, let me give you this book. Even though you're not raising your kids in the faith, with this book, you can still raise them faithfully. And so I'm trying to get into a part of the world that doesn't take the church seriously, but can benefit from the church's teachings, which is that
book.
What
a beautiful bridge. Food. Like everybody, no matter who they are, what they are, what religion, whatever, everybody likes food to some degree. And then, of course, you're putting the kind of the theology into the food, and you're giving practical exercises, tips, formation.
That's right. Formation is key. So the whole first part of the book is about telling parents what their role really is. A lot of times you think of nurturers, you think of protectors. Nope, for me, parents are formation directors. And that's what a lot of seminarians and novices and religious orders go through. They have people overseeing them, not to tell them what to do, but molding them into the person they're called to be. So formation director, it's new for the Catholic Church's role of parenting. Again, a lot of parents think, I just got to provide. Nope, you've got to form them. Form them into what? saints, of course.
And you have to, we think like they're going to catch it. They don't just catch it. It's intentional training. I had 4 kids, and there's a lot of intentional training and a lot of repeating, like 3 meals a day for 18 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot of work.
In fact, it's heroic.
Right. Well, it is heroic, and it's laborious sometimes, and then sometimes they're not grateful receivers. But then the Holy Spirit would always say, you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for me.
That's right.
And so as I serve and as I cook, sometimes slave.
Joy, you're sounding like the scriptures. Whatever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do to me.
It's like,
true.
and you're going to like it. You're going to eat it, and you're going to like it.
Well, and when I mentioned heroic, it's intentional because the role of the parent also is to become a hero to their children. Right. And I just kind of give it the new name, a supper hero.
I love it. I love it. And my daughters, my sons, they're cooks. Jim's a good cook. You have to be a superhero, a supper hero in that way, because the culture is so different. Fast food has just wiped that out.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to eat. We're just going to grab something through the drive-in, throw it on the table. And we don't even eat with each other. We go in separate rooms.
And yet, in that moment, that's generally the teenage years when everyone's busiest. This book addresses that. So the book really chronicles how to stay a family from the moment you're feeding your kids mashed peas to the moment when your kids are feeding you mashed peas, and every generation in between, because families are going to evolve. They are going to change. They're going to experience these moments where, gosh, when are we going to have a chance to eat together? Well, this book can teach you how to still stay together. I mean, in fact, it gives you the chance to, even like with the recipe on young adults, I cook with alcohol. And it gives families a chance to talk about alcohol and how it can impact you negatively if abused.
Yeah. You're using some powerful terms, even though you're trying to not get too heavy with theology, especially on the outside, so it is a great book for all people. But I love plating grace, because I think you have to train those, especially young people coming up with children who are just kind of relearning perhaps, or learning for the first time. What is the meal about anyway? About plating grace. And we want our kids to have grace, the presence of the Lord, in this experience. You go through, and what's taking place, not only when you actually get to plate it, but what happens before the meal?
That's right.
What happens in this meal? What happens after the meal? Have you thought about that? And you teach it. And that's helpful for people that are saying, I really want this to be meaningful, but I don't know what that means exactly.
Give me ideas.
Talking about
help me.
A lot of people want conversation starters, and I actually try to avoid that because that is so forced and it is not organic, it's not natural. And so I actually help parents as formation directors to engage conversations, not with topics, but with honesty and sincerity. One example, please don't ask your kid, how was your day today? Because their kids are going to say, good, nothing, whatever, leave me alone, right? They're all just going to say that. Instead, why don't you as parents at this moment ask your kids, hey, how would you deal with this problem that I'm going through at work? And your kids are going to be like, you're asking me for advice? But it gives you a chance just to be honest. And so there are ways to engage conversation. And as far as plating grace is concerned, it's a laborious activity to do what you're doing. Remember that commercial where the mom like opens up a can of something, puts it in the oven, and then she throws flour on her face to make it look like she was working all day. But we have to understand that the word work in Greek is liturgy. Liturgos is work of the people, where we get the word to celebrate our Mass. So every time you're cooking a meal and engaging that formation experience, it is a liturgy. It's something that can glorify God and build up His kingdom.
And what we learned in our house too is I like setting the table and presenting things.
Of course you do.
Having where they're sitting and being. We just bought a new table. I had to have it made because there was no table in all the world that I wanted.
It's an intermediate table. We have a table that will seat, 18 people, 20 people.
Nice.
And then you got an intermediate table, all oak. It's a round table.
72-inch round.
Yeah. And
I wanted.
Gosh, that's bigger than where I live.
No, so that I could see all my people.
No, I get it. Good for you.
We have 17 grandchildren.
Yes, you do.
Plus the children, plus the in-laws. So we're talking 27, 28 people when we get together. And so we have this long table, then there's another room for another table. So some of the younger kids are there. But Joy recently had a kind of granddaughter day. and took them out to an amusement park and a water park and so on. This is getting to conversation. And
That's right.
I think we need to seize the opportunities that are given us for conversation.
Let me just give a tip to families too, because you have a beautiful family. They're raised in a goodness with each other. There are families who don't know how to do this. And so oftentimes the meal time is replaced with argumentation, with really divisive conversation. And I say stop all of that. Make the meal just a meal. It doesn't have to be anything more than it is. It's really your presence there. And then if the meal is good, then guess what? Say, hey, let's talk about that one problem. You and I, let's go get a sundae at the store down the street.
Great idea.
But you see, the mealtime cannot replace those other conversations because it speaks for itself. In the scriptures, Christ was clear. He ate with sinners. I'm sure he didn't open up the catechism and talk to everybody about that. He just, by his very presence, showed them, I love you enough, you don't gross me out. I will eat with you. And eventually, I will be your food.
Wow, that's powerful.
That is beautiful.
As these girls came back from the amusement park.
Nice.
So they're speaking about things, and it wasn't like a big meal or anything. We just ran eating some snacks or something. But you know, you talk about how do you have conversation. I think you need to listen for what they want to talk about. So they're talking about being at the pool, the different kinds of people that were there.
They saw different mass of humanity.
You know, some were kind of like them, some weren't like them, some were. You know, it's just incredible, and so they were identifying we're a little bit different than some other people in terms of the way we present ourselves and how we care for our bodies, or what we would say, or who's with whom. Maybe guys with guys and women with women, and that's what they are at the pool. Romantically together, or maybe married, so-called. Okay,
it's all over.
It's all over.
But we were having that conversation, and so we were all agreed about the way we live. But I said, but why do we? Why do you take that position? Why do we take that position? And so we had this conversation with these young girls about, is this all religious, or is it natural to our bodies? Look at our bodies, how they match a different body, and yet these people are doing this. And then yet Joy spoke to some of these people that were so different than us. Are you having a good time here? And so on. So they're different. Why do we believe what we believe, and yet we're of equal dignity, worth, and value? It's a heavy conversation, and they were really there because they had just experienced all that.
Sure, of course. I mean, a lot of times when people think of the church, they think of a very overbearing set of parents. And I think that the church has to have discipline. That's just part of discipleship. But one of the things that a church has to do is help people, no matter where they are, learn how to be the quote-unquote best version of themselves. And that doesn't begin with you shoving facts down their throat, but elucidating where they're coming from, and so they can explore this. In fact, the one chapter on teenage years, when it gets troubling teenage years, like what happens if a girl brings her boyfriend home and he's dressed in goth outfits, you know, piercings and tats? You know what? Invite them to dinner.
He's got to eat.
Engage that person. Let them know we're not here to. You're not giving them the Eucharist. You're giving them soup. You know, and you can do that. And things change when they see how feeding even the least likely person is really an act of God. You know, when you can eat together with sinners and saints, God is there.
That's right. And there's going to be love in the meal. There'll be love in the conversation, and that is the way.
Let's hope.
No,
Let's hope.
But intentional, like
absolutely.
That's where you have to say, I'm not going to say that. I really want to say this right now, but I'm not going to say that because that's not going to be good for the other. Or that's not going to be good for the whole of this conversation.
Simple technique. Hey, you know what? Let's talk about that. With a drink, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee afterwards. But keep that family meal time what it is supposed to be. Communion, community.
When our kids like a meal, they say, Nona, we taste the love in this meal. So they were lighter meals.
Extra cheese.
There you go. That we taste the love. And isn't that theologically true? That don't eat meat sacrificed to idols, you know. Why? Because people wanted them. They would put the God in the meal. Jesus put himself in the meal. We're supposed to put ourselves into the meal.
We are supposed to do that. You know, when we're talking about that conversation too, in religious communities, they would eat in silence, but they would have someone reading the scriptures or offering thoughts and prayers and meditation, which gave you a chance to really engage the food. What I think this book is trying to do is engage the power of food. And why? Because it's something that we did not create. It's something God gave to us. It's the gift of God, work of human hands. And it will become for us the bread of life.
Father Leo, we're going to continue to speak about this on Friday.
Bon appetit.
The book is Saving the Family, the Transformative Power of Sharing Meals with People You Love. FatherLeoFeeds.com. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, Father John Paul is with us today on the show, and I'm so excited to have him. But before we visit with him, we're going to check in with Catherine Hadro of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, one of my favorite shows. Catherine, we hear you'll have a wonderful story about a family raising a son with Down syndrome.
Hi, Jim and Joy. Yes, I cannot wait to introduce you to baby Andrew. This week, we speak to a Catholic couple who refused to abort their baby son, who is prenatally diagnosed with Down syndrome. They open up about why he is a blessing to their family and their advice to parents who receive a prenatal diagnosis. And as always, it's so important we stay informed and involved with the latest with pro-life legislation, which brings me to our call to action reminder. If you go to prolifeweekly.com, you will find our latest call to action. This is what you can do this week to get involved and to advance the pro-life cause. Go ahead and go to prolifeweekly.com to take action now and make a difference. You can catch all of this and more on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly at 10 p.m. Eastern on Thursday and again on Sunday at 10 a.m. I hope to see you all there, but for now, back to you at home.
Catherine, thank you so much. Such an important matter. A difficult prenatal diagnosis is not the end of the story. There's plenty of help out there for you. If you've gotten one, the church is here for you. EWTN is here for you. Jim and Joy are here for you. And God could do something great. Father.
There's plenty of pregnancy resource centers out there in every city. And we have one here in Birmingham that is wide open. Our doors are wide open for you. Father Leo is great, isn't he?
Yes.
He is. What a
his
gift.
comment on formation directors, I have to say that he was my formation director in seminary. He taught me homiletics, and he also was my formation director in pastoral formation. So every seminarian has a pastoral formation where we go out and go into the apostolate, and we have different assignments. So one of the things that he said about when he was younger, that a lot of people probably came over to his house because his mother was good at cooking. I could say the same thing from my own mother. I think a lot of people were drawn over to my house because of my mother's cooking. But not just my mother's cooking, but also her heart. And she had the ability to listen. So a lot of people were drawn over to our family because of food. You mentioned you having 17 grandchildren. I have an aunt and uncle with 14 children and 48, 49 grandchildren already. And not all of them are married. But in that house, my Aunt Jeannie is always cooking. And they not only having their kids come over and their grandchildren, but also people in the neighborhood. So people come together to be fed, not just with food, but with the truth. You know, Father Leo spoke about how around the table conversations can open up. That's what happens in my experience around the table. Conversations are open up.
And not only that, you're feeding people with love. So people come in. I mean, I have 7 brothers and sisters, and my mother would always say, there's always room for one more at the table. We always had an unexpected guest for dinner. And the deal is because there was security, there was stability there, and some people are coming from places where it isn't stable and it isn't safe. And they come in and they're like, here's a meal. We had a soup kitchen for 15 years, and we fed 150 people on average a day, 365. And they came in because it was stable, it was secure, it was a loving place,
and
not
safe.
Safe.
Right. Safety is key. If someone feels safe, people's walls come down. You know, if someone's able to sit there and you're listening to someone, then over time their walls break down and then you're able to share.
Amen. Father, close us with a prayer and blessing, please.
Sure. Family, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may he turn his face to you and be merciful to you, and may he show you his kindness and give you his peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Well, beloved, you are a part of this EWTN family and community. You're always at home with Jim and Joy. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.